You ever have one of those neighbors that just can't mind their own business? Well, imagine two of them sisters, both part of the HOA board, both always finding something to complain about. But it didn't stop there. No, these two had a personal vendetta against me, or maybe just my mailbox. And that's where this whole story begins. I live in a quiet little cul-de-sac. Nothing fancy, just the kind of place where you'd expect people to wave, maybe borrow some sugar now and then, but not these two. Let's just call them the Karen sisters. From day one, they were on me about everything: the length of my grass, where I parked, even the color of my flower pots. But things took a turn when they started accidentally backing into my mailbox. At first, Kate gave them the benefit of the doubt. Things happen, right? Maybe a bad angle, poor visibility. But after the third time, was clear. It wasn't an accident. I'd fix it, and within a week, bam, knocked over again. No apology, no note. Just a busted post and mail scattered across my yard. And every time I brought it up to the HOA, crickets. Why? Because they are the HOA. So, I got fed up. If they were going to keep smashing my mailbox, I figured it was time to give them something unforgettable. Let's just say I made a few upgrades. Not anything illegal, nothing dangerous, but definitely something they weren't expecting. A little creativity, a bit of muscle, and a whole lot of petty satisfaction. What happened next? Well, let's just say when the Karen sisters tried to pull their usual stunt, the mailbox didn't budge, but something else did. The look on their faces, worth every second of planning. But it didn't stop there. Oh no, this little act of mailbox justice set off a chain reaction that no one saw coming, especially them. Stick around, because you are not going to believe how far these two went to try and one-up me and how it really backfired. So here's the thing about living in an HOA neighborhood: you're not on the board, you're basically just trying to survive. The Karen sisters, they ran it like their own little kingdom. One of them, Susan, acted like the queen, always walking around with a clipboard, pretending she was doing inspections. The other, Linda, followed her around like a shadow, nodding at everything she said. Together, they made everyone's life harder, but for some reason, they really had it out for me. I don't know if it was because I didn't suck up to them like the others, or because I once told Susan to stop peeking over my fence. Either way, they made it clear they didn't want me feeling comfortable in my own home. But it was the mailbox thing that really crossed the line. After the third time, they backed into it. I installed a camera knot to catch them, but more. For my peace of mind, sure enough, 2 days later, Susan's car is caught slowly nudging the post until it cracked and fell. She didn't even flinch, just drove off like it was no big deal. I reported it to the HOA, and guess who showed up to handle the complaint? Yup. Susan herself, standing on my porch with her fake smile, telling me it was probably just weather damage. Meanwhile, Linda stood behind her, sipping her coffee like she was watching a morning soap opera. I started to realize something. This wasn't about a mailbox. This was about control. They wanted to show me they were in charge, and no matter how many times I fixed it, they'd just keep proving their point. That's when I decided to get creative. I wasn't going to fight them with more complaints or emails. I needed to make a statement, one they couldn't ignore or break without making a scene. So I built a new mailbox. Solid, heavy, grounded like a tank. But still within the rules. Let's just say it was more than just a mailbox, it was a line in the sand. And when they hit it this time, well, something unexpected happened. Something that really shook their perfect little HOA world. I spent the whole weekend working on that mailbox, poured concrete deep into the ground, reinforced the post with steel, and picked a box that looked normal but could probably survive a minor earthquake. I even double-checked the HOA rulebook. There was nothing that said how. Strong a mailbox could be, just that it had to match the neighborhood aesthetic. So I painted it the same neutral gray, made sure the numbers were regulation size, and stood back like a proud artist admiring his masterpiece. Now here's where things get interesting. A couple days go by. Catch Susan circling the cul-de-sac. In her car, slowly driving past my house like she was scouting something. Linda was walking her dog around the same loop twice as often as usual. They knew something was different. They could feel it. But they couldn't quite put their finger on it. Then it happened. Around 6:45 in the morning, I'll never forget. The sound? A loud metallic thud, followed by the screech of brakes. I looked out the window and saw Susan's car stopped at an awkward angle. Front bumper slightly caved in, steam rising from under the hood. And there it was, my mailbox. Still standing, not even a scratch. Susan jumped out of the car, red in the face, yelling something I couldn't hear from inside. Linda came running over in her bathrobe, phone already in hand. I couldn't help but smile, but I knew better than to celebrate too soon, 'cause instead of taking the hit and moving on, they doubled down. Later that day, I got a notice taped to my door. Mailbox structure in violation pose potential safety hazard to residents and vehicles. Signed by both of them. That's when I realized they weren't just embarrassed, they were angry. And they were ready to start a whole new game. Suddenly, other neighbors started getting random citations too. A garden hose out of place. A lawn chair too close to the sidewalk. It was like they went on a power trip overnight, cracking down on everyone. People started whispering, asking questions. But no one wanted to go up against the Karen sisters. Except me. Things escalated fast after that bogus violation notice. It wasn't just me anymore, the whole neighborhood was feeling the pressure. People who had never had a single issue with the HOA were suddenly getting cited for the tiniest things. A kid left his bike near the driveway warning letter. Someone had a wind chime that was too loud, another violation. It was obvious what was going on. The Karen sisters were using their positions to punish anyone who didn't fall in line, starting with me and spreading outward. But here's the twist. Instead of making people scared, it started to make them curious. I had a few neighbors stop by quietly, asking what really happened with the mailbox. Word had gotten around about Susan's dented bumper, and people were starting to see through the act. They weren't just protecting the community, like they always claimed, they were targeting it. One neighbor, Mark, who lived a few houses down, told me he'd received 3 violation notices in 1 week for things that had never been a problem before. Another, Sarah, who used to be close friends with Linda, said she wasn't even allowed to speak up during the last HOA meeting. They cut her off. People were getting fed up. That's when I had an idea. I dug through the HOA bylaws pages and pages of technical rules and found something interesting. Residents could request an open forum meeting if enough people signed a petition. And even better, they could vote to call a special election if the board was acting outside of its responsibilities. It was risky. The Karen sisters had eyes everywhere. But I started talking to people carefully. Little by little, I found others who were willing to speak up, especially the ones who were tired of living under their constant surveillance. We started gathering signatures, quietly, cautiously. One driveway, conversation at a time. But I knew the Karens were catching on. I started noticing cars parked across from my house at night. I'd find little things moved around in my yard. One day, my trash can was tipped over, nothing missing, just ... unsettled. The pressure was building. And it was only a matter of time before something exploded. Just when I thought I had the upper hand, things took another unexpected turn. About a week into the petition effort, I came home to find a certified letter taped to my front door. Not a violation notice this time, this was something bigger. It was a formal complaint filed against me by the HOA board. Apparently, I was being accused of harassment and intimidation of board members. And if I didn't attend a disciplinary hearing, they'd move to fine me or even try to force legal action. At first, I thought it was a scare tactic, but then I realized they were getting desperate. The Karen sisters must have heard about the petition, and instead of trying to squash it quietly, they went nuclear. The scary part? They had just enough authority to make it stick. The wording was vague, but serious enough that it could mess with my property record or even impact resale value. I felt cornered. They were using the HOA as a weapon, twisting the rules to protect themselves. But I wasn't about to back down, not now. I gathered everything I had. Security cam footage of the mailbox hit. The violation letters neighbors shared with me. Notes from our conversations. Even screenshots of messages Susan had sent to the community group chats, subtly threatening residents who weren't aligned with HOA values. But then came the twist no one saw coming. Mark, the neighbor who'd helped me early on, confessed something. He used to serve on the HOA years ago, before the Karen sisters took over. And apparently, there was one file buried deep in the HOA records that could change everything. It was a complaint from years ago about Susan's misuse of funds, something that was never followed up on because the old board dissolved. If we could get that file and bring it up at the disciplinary hearing, it could flip the script in tier.